The play on the field, the court, and the ice is just one part of sports. Behind every game are the people hard at work so we can enjoy the action. They're the owners, administrators, agents, broadcasters, and vendors who bring the games to life. Meet them when you go Behind the Game with Patrick Klinger and Dave Bowden.
Hello everybody, welcome to Behind the Game, presented by KLN Family Brands, makers of the best licorice on the planet, Wiley Wallaby, and other great products for people and pets. We really appreciate KLN's support. Wonderful company doing wonderful things in the community. I'm Patrick Klinger, President of Agile Marketing Partners. Alongside me is Dave Bowden, DB, known as Double Bogey in golf. In Dave's world, that's a personal best.
Yeah, I'm a double bogey golfer. I'll admit that, but I keep trying.
You do.
You
do.
I hope
the effort is there.
I hope I can get to bogey golf this year. But
hey, we're going to talk about my favorite sport, golf.
Yep.
On a weekend when my favorite event is taking place. The Masters is going on as we speak.
Yep.
So it's wholly appropriate that we're having this conversation today.
Yeah, up here in Minnesota, we're not quite to golf season, but we're getting there. And then when the Masters comes, that's when I start to think it's time to play golf and talk golf. So this is great. We have a great guest today. Today's guest is Laura Frick, one of the rising leaders in the game of golf. Laura was recently named Championship Director of the KPMG Women's PGA Championship, and that is set to be played in June at Hazeltine National Golf Club right here in town in Chaska, where she'll oversee the on-site operations and really for one of the premier events in all of women's golf, really in all of golf. So let's get started. Welcome to the show, and thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Let's kind of start with how you got to where you are now in this. You took up golf at the age of 7, and your whole family played together. How did the early rounds of golf and golfing with your family shape your ongoing relationship with the game of golf? And did you ever imagine that golf would become your career?
It's a great question. I mean, I have been playing the game for a long time. My parents play, my sister plays, my grandparents really got me involved to start. And it's the best thing about golf, I think, is that it's a sport you can play for life. So whether you're 7 or 77, there's a way to connect with each other out in nature and enjoy the sport. And so it was always a hobby, and I didn't really realize it could be a career until I saw my uncle kind of going through his career, which was going to Ferris State University in northern Michigan and actually studying professional golf management. And I knew my uncle, worked in the game. He was obviously a part of our family and our family outings, but my mom sort of told me, you could make this into a career, not necessarily playing for a living, but helping showcase this great sport that we all love so much. And so, I followed in his footsteps. It's a 4.5-year program, and I studied all things business, but also all things specific to golf. So food and beverage, hospitality, tournament operations. And, I started working at a golf course when I was 16, and it's really the only industry and job I've ever had. So very fortunate to be able to connect my favorite hobby with a career.
That's excellent.
You've described a defining moment standing on the tee at one of your last high school tournaments. It's suddenly full of questions about how it all worked. Right? What were you asking yourself at that time, and how has that curiosity really driven you ever since?
It's really kind of a nerdy moment for me because I wasn't thinking about if I was going to make par or birdie or maybe even double bogey.
No, thank you
on the hole.
Did you arrange that before?
But no, I just really started to look around and think that there's so much work that goes into a golf course and in high school tournaments. And so here I was standing on this tee and getting ready to play, one of my final holes of high school golf. And I just realized that there are people behind the scenes who get to wake up every day and make the golf course look beautiful, or get the merchandise in the golf shop that we're all trying to buy and wear. And there's so many different avenues to the sport that just don't really get noticed or talked about all the time. And it was intriguing to me that I could do something behind the scenes to make other people's lives better. Like, how much joy do we feel on the golf course? Well, there's a lot of people behind that joy. And so that was when I realized that was kind of something I wanted to be a part of.
So one of the things you have said in the past is that you would like to see golf be more accessible, and it kind of ties into what you're just talking about now. It doesn't need necessarily to be an 18-hole, 5-hour, $150, $300 experience.
For sure.
And there's at least a little bit of an image, if not reality, about all of that. What do you see as the future of where you might take it or help to take it in terms of that accessibility of the game and growing the game as a broad sport?
Yeah, I think the tradition of the game is important. It's exactly why we are where we are today. But the world evolves in so many ways, and the game of golf, in my opinion, has to evolve with it. And so it's things like you mentioned where people have time constraints, people have money constraints that shouldn't keep them from being able to enjoy the game of golf. So if it's these par 3 courses that are out there, if it's the utilization of technology through things like Pop Stroke and Puttery and all the other places that are popping up, to me, I think that all of those are great for the sport because it's a way for people to enjoy the game when they might not have the resources or the time to be able to do it every day, 18 holes, 5-hour rounds. And it's also a way to kind of stepping stone, like get people to that final level of wanting to go out on the golf course. But it's an intimidating game. I think we all know that. And I personally just want people to feel comfortable when they hear the phrase golf and we say, do you want to come play golf? Do you want to putt around? Do you want to chip around? And they don't feel like intimidated and scared because maybe they've never picked up a club before. And so really my mission and hope is that we continue to wrap our arms around the technology and the innovative ways to play the game, because I think it's only better for everyone to be able to kind of come in and say, golf is a game for all. If you want to ultimately graduate to that next level, that's great. But if you're just comfortable at the par 3 level, that's fine too.
You know, it's been great to see the resurgence of golf really since COVID. You know, they're back in maybe around 2020 or so, there were a lot of people ready to kick dirt on the grave of golf. They said it takes too long, it's too difficult, it's too expensive. If there's a silver lining, I suppose, that came out of the pandemic, it's the fact that people rediscovered the game of golf. It's not so great for me because it's a lot harder for me to get a tee time now than it used to be. But it's really wonderful to see people back out on the golf course playing the game.
Yeah.
You've made history as the first female PGA of America member to serve as championship director for one of the associations, really the Spectator Championships. What does that milestone mean to you personally?
It really is an honor. It is not something I had in my dream book, you know? Like I had lots of dreams to become a championship director, but I never realized there was a whole nother path that I could forge. And when I went through that PGA golf management program, I was the only female in my class of 80 males. And so I always knew that, you know, there wouldn't be a lot of females around, but I always wanted to be able to show the other women interested in getting in the business of golf that there's a pathway for them and there's a place for all of us. And so I think for me, it just makes me feel good knowing that those other women going through PGA golf management right now, they can see that there's plenty of leadership opportunities for women in the game of golf and in championships specifically.
You know, you graduated from Ferris State, you mentioned the PGA golf management program, and you've worked your way through several roles, specifically with PGA of America, before you landing in the role you have today. Walk us through that journey just a bit, like from the time, you know, you're just coming out of college, and now you're in a true leadership role and a role model, as Patrick was talking about. How did you get from one point to the other?
Yeah, I feel really fortunate that PGA of America has given me the opportunity to kind of grow in all facets of our championship operations. So I started as a championship coordinator, and I really worked on our junior golf side of things and our member side. So things like the Junior PGA Championship, the Junior Ryder Cup, those were two key events that I got to be a part of. And I really handled all the administrative work. So registrations for the field and scoring and just how all that comes to life. And from there, I received the opportunity to move on to our PGA Junior League program, which is essentially, we call it like the Little League, but for golf. And it's team golf, it's kids 10 to 17, and I took over our national championship programming. So not only the championship itself, but the pathway to get there. So the qualifying levels from the local league all the way up to the national championship. And when I started in that role, I was still young. I got a promotion to competition specialist, so still climbing up the ladder. And that championship was a tape-delayed junior golf event. We put it on Golf Channel 4 months after the championship itself. And I was involved in that for 4 years. And in those 4 years, we evolved it into a live broadcasted event on ESPN. So I started to get that experience in broadcast events, and always my MO was treat this like it's a major championship. Let these kids and their parents feel like they're LPGA and PGA Tour athletes coming to a major championship. So within that role, I was fortunate to get a few promotions, staying in the PGA Junior League space, and then a year ago, this opportunity with the KPMG Women's PGA Championship came together. And I just was able to pull from so many different buckets of experience that I had in these last now 9 years with the PGA to be able to feel really ready and prepared for this new role. Because whether it's volunteers, whether it's operations, rules, golf course setup, hospitality in a small way, I had been able to experience that in some way, shape, or form. So it really gave me the opportunity to be well-rounded and ready to step into this new role.
Yeah. You shared that you were the only female in a class of 80 in college. Being a female in this industry that seems to be pretty male-dominated, have you run into any challenges you think that maybe your male counterparts have not?
I think so. I think, again, I know what I signed up for. I knew as a freshman walking into that room, seeing all of those gentlemen, I knew I'd learn a lot. And I think I owe a lot to my friends in college who did kind of teach me and show me, how to stick up for myself, because the easy thing you can do when you walk into that room is sort of say, oh, I'm just the only female here, I'll stay quiet. They'll take the leadership positions, I'll, just be along for the ride. And I didn't do that, but I also didn't do it because they supported me. They didn't treat me any different than they treated each other. So they, early on, like that career or that college experience, helped me in my career know, like, to walk into a room and understand it's okay to have a voice and to not be afraid to take up space. I think there's been plenty of situations where, maybe people weren't as supportive as my college friends, but that's okay because I had the confidence and the ability to still walk in and feel like I belonged.
So now, here you are, championship director. You got a huge event coming up, so I assume your life is pretty much completely revolving around that these days. You're overseeing all the on-site operations at Hazeltine, along with preparation now. With the championship now just weeks away, what does your life look like these days, and your days and your weeks getting ready to put this event on in the not-too-distant future here?
We are right around the corner, as you mentioned. We are just hitting that point where we're going from planning mode to execution mode. And so it's always an interesting place to be because you spend the last year, making calls, emails, setting up meetings, getting marketing campaigns ready to roll out, all with those like, all right, April 1st is when this is going to drop. April 15th is when this is going to drop. So you put all that time in, and then now it's kind of go time. So we have our build starting on May 11th. So the last year we've been selling corporate hospitality. We've been mapping out how to utilize the golf course to the best of our ability to kind of create that mini city that you experience when you come on property to a major. And so, yeah, we're in the stages now where we're really focused on selling tickets and creating awareness about the championship. we're wrapping up all of our corporate hospitality sales and getting ready to start the build, which is really exciting.
You're aligning partners across the PGA of America, the LPGA, KPMG, the Hazeltine, the club, and the community. How do you keep it all flowing in one direction, getting everybody working together collaboratively?
It's actually one of my favorite parts of the job because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, which is we want to elevate these women athletes and we want to celebrate the community of the Twin Cities and have an incredible major championship. And so when you always keep that at the forefront, it's just really about making sure everybody has a seat at the table to share their feedback on how we get there. But we already know we're all headed towards the same place. So giving people a voice on how we get there and then really just making sure communication is over the top. Like with so many people invested in the championship, you just want to make them feel like they're along for the ride because they are. And so just making sure over communication, lots of conversations, lots of, before when I mentioned the planning process, it's like lots of whiteboard sessions, lots of could we make this happen? If we can't, what can we do instead? And it's never really saying no to those groups either. There's always going to be a world where we can't do it all, but what are we doing to creatively bring this championship to life that makes people excited and makes things feel new and fresh for not only the partners involved, but the community members, like you said.
Yeah. If I can just piggyback on that, what does the corporate support look like here in Minnesota? And we've got a lot of sporting events here. We've got every major professional sports team. We've got a Big Ten university with all the sports. We've got a PGA tour stop. So the money's spread a little thin. I mean, how have they been supportive of the tournament?
We've been so grateful for the corporate supporters. So it's a unique situation because we obviously love the Twin Cities market. We love working with Hazeltine. We were here in 2016 for the Ryder Cup, 2019 for the KPMG Women's PGA Championship, and now we're back for 2026. So we have a lot of repeat customers that have been supporters of us the last 10 or so years. But we also just see a lot of people who are investing more in women's sports. And so the local corporate community, you all have so many wonderful women's sports teams here along with the men's sports teams. And it's been neat to see the way that they just wrap their arms around us and the other sports teams in market. I will say we're going to have a really nice build out at the championship, multiple holes filled with skyboxes, a shared venue on the 16th hole, which is the signature hole at Hazeltine. And we've been very, very grateful for all of the corporate support.
So you've been at this for a while now, and obviously it's all come together here this last stretch. But what would you say has been the biggest challenge you faced in putting this event on?
I think for me personally, I'm actually based out of Frisco, Texas. I think we talked about that a little bit. And I travel back and forth, and so I want to immerse myself into the community, and I can't always do that every single day. I'm grateful for, virtual Zooms and Google Meets, and it's been super special to do that. But I think that on top of just the different seasons that we have here, trying to get people to remember that this event is coming. And it's hard. I don't know how you survive the negative 20s and the snow, but really it's just making sure we spread the word as much as possible and get people excited and just really wrap our arms around the community.
This tournament has been a major since 1955. How would you describe the state of the women's game right now? And what does hosting a championship like this do to help move the game forward?
I think the women's game is in the best place it's ever been. I think the LPGA is starting to think creatively and try new things at their different tournaments. With their new commissioner, Craig Kessler, I think he is the perfect person to kind of lead the charge of, how do we continue to elevate the women's game? One of the things that we've been focusing on is just the reintroduction of LPGA athletes. I think telling more of their stories and connecting them more to the fans is important because oftentimes, we throw a player's name up on a billboard or their photo up on a billboard or on a video board at the championship, but we don't we don't have any connection points for the viewer. So where did this player go to college? What is a couple fun facts about her? What is she doing on social media and why you should follow her? It's really just about connecting the players back to the fans, and they're taking a lot of steps to do that, which is exciting. And I think really for this championship, it's the broadcast opportunities, it's the purse that we have. We have one of the highest purses in women's golf. We have one of the largest number of hours of broadcast for women's golf. So not only is it what you experience on site, but it's how we're blasting that out to the rest of the world, because it is a global championship.
So speaking of the connection to try to establish to the stars of the game, or the up-and-comers of the game, and from a general population standpoint, it's probably true that they have a little more familiarity with some of the big names on the men's PGA Tour than the women's side. So you've got TV and the broadcast things you talk about, but you also mentioned the tournament coming up. What would you say about the experience, the fan experience, or the ability to connect with the golfers as you put this major on at Hazeltine?
Yeah, I think this championship is extremely accessible. It's 156 of the best women golfers in the world, and you have the chance to be right up along the ropes watching them on every hole if you want to. And I think that's something that I really get excited about for kind of that younger generation, and bringing your kids out to see these athletes, because when you are around them, it's incredibly impressive, and the way they play. And you don't get to feel that necessarily when you're watching on TV. So when you come on property and you're walking down the hole with them, or you're waiting on the green and you watch the way their ball spins when it lands, you really start to see like, oh wow, this is elite golf. These are elite athletes, and it's an indescribable thing until you see it in real time. But the connectivity to the female athletes is wonderful. They're always willing to give back their time before and after the round for autographs and photos, and you know, because they want the fan base to continue to grow too. So they're a part of it as well.
Hazeltine has a storied history of hosting majors. They've had Ryder Cups, they've had U.S. Open, they've had PGA Championships, both men's and women's. How deeply involved is the membership in putting together the tournament, or do they really just sort of stay out of the way and let you do what you need to do for a couple of weeks?
I love the membership at Hazeltine. So we have roughly 1,400 volunteers that support the championship, and that's broken into roughly 60 different committees. Every single committee is chaired by a Hazeltine member. So we have the membership engaged in locker room services, rope and stake, marshals, standard bearers, all of the different committees. Each of the committee has a Hazeltine fingerprint on it. We also work really closely with an executive committee, which is led by Greta Cito, our general chair. She's a member of Hazeltine as well as all of the committee members. So for us, it's more about, you know, we know we're coming in and we know you're taking over your club, but we want it to be a collective effort. And so Hazeltine has wrapped their arms around it 110%. They're out there helping us sell tickets, helping us sell corporate. They're actually putting together a first of its kind little, I'll call it a women's leadership event that we've never done from a host club perspective before. But because they're so supportive and they're so willing to back the championship, you know, we want to be able to give them these wins and try new things, because they're open to it and so are we.
So there's a belief that when top women's events compete at some iconic, prestigious venues, it elevates the entire profile of women's golf. What does a course like Hazeltine do for that? It's hosted numerous majors, hosted a Ryder Cup. What do you think Hazeltine itself does for the visibility of women's golf?
I think it absolutely grows the game from the women's side and from every side, because Hazeltine even has a wonderful junior program and junior background, which is even more important for, again, that next generation. And so I think even when I talked to a lot of the LPGA players last year, everyone was already talking about Hazeltine. Oh, we remember the treatment we got in 2019. We remember how perfectly manicured that golf course is. And just Hazeltine goes above and beyond in everything that they do, from food and beverage to the cool towels you get on a hot day. Like, they have every detail dialed in, and it doesn't go unnoticed by the players. And it's still, you know, one of our most liked championships from 2019 when we were here. So I think the players feel that it's intentional. I think they feel that we are taking those steps to make sure they feel treated well and welcomed, and again, that this is a major championship and we're going to act like that.
Minnesota is obviously a cold weather state, yet we have a hot passion for golf here. Beside your tournament, we've got the 3M Open, a PGA Tour stop that takes place a week or two later on. What have you learned about golf fans in Minnesota?
They're some of my favorite fans now. I mean, I heard the term Minnesota nice a year ago when I first moved here, and I was working here, and I didn't really know what that meant. And then about a month later, after I had met many people, I was like, this is a real thing. And you all are diehards, and I can appreciate it. On my drive over today, I saw people playing the Loop right outside Hazeltine, and it's not super cold today, but I don't know if it's necessarily golfing weather.
No, you will see that when it's 30, but the snow is gone. People start getting out there.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I think it's special. I think it's cool to see, and those are the types of people that we would love to have out at the championship. You know, and not only people who love golf, but people who are just interested in major sports and interested in seeing Hazeltine and being able to walk the property and learn the history, because, again, golf fans always show up, and we're always grateful for that. For me, it's about how do we get maybe that person on sort of the edge of the golf fandom to be like, all right, I'm going to come check this thing out and see what it's really about.
I know we're getting toward our end, but speaking of that, and you mentioned all the volunteer committees earlier and the turnout you've had for that, are there still volunteer opportunities available? And if so, how does somebody still get involved?
This community has been so good to us that we are currently on a wait list for volunteers, which is
Wow.
quite unheard of for us,
that's
to be
awesome.
honest. So I can't thank the community enough. We do have a wait list, and if they go to our website, they can join it. But they're also welcome to just come out
come on
and
out.
see the championship.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to how civic-minded Minnesota is, because the 2026 Special Olympic USA Games are happening almost simultaneously
Yes.
with it. And that also requires a tremendous number of volunteers. Yet people have really stepped up to support that event as well.
Yes, we've been working closely with the Special Olympics Games, hoping to do something really neat on the weekend of championship week with some of the athletes. And it's true. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen a community show up the way this one has. And they're still knocking on the door. And we try to find as many spots for everyone to get involved, because you don't want to turn people away. But it's really special.
Yeah. For a local fan who's never attended a women's LPGA event, what would your pitch be? What would you tell them to convince them to come out and support the players and participate in the tournament?
I would say that it's a great opportunity to get outside with friends and family and experience elite athletes at their very best. I would also say that we have a very unique opportunity for people who, again, maybe they don't want to come and walk the entire golf course and watch golf, but we have a brand new ticket option this year that we've never had at a women's PGA championship. It's called Club PGA, and it's really our nod to the Twin Cities. So within this venue, you have access to local beers, local food, think walleye fingers, wild rice patties, local wines and local spirits. That's not available outside of the venue. So you essentially pay for an upgraded ticket. It gets you access into this venue. There's a bar, there's seats, there's a little beer garden, dedicated restrooms. It's on the 17th hole, which is a par 3, which is a ton of fun. But for the non-golfer, it's kind of like, come try some new food, come experience the outdoors, and I can almost guarantee you that while you're there, the atmosphere and the vibe and the ability to see these world athletes is going to get you a little bit hooked.
Oh, terrific. Laura Frick, thank you so much for being on Behind the Game.
Thank you.
It's great. Best of luck. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic event in June. DB, thanks for joining me as
Double
always. And
Yeah, this gets me inspired.
Good.
I'll get out on the course and then be shot down back down to earth. But
thank all of
thanks
you
so
for
much for coming out
watching
today.
Behind the Game presented by KLN Family Brands. We'll see you again next month.